For those that are just joining us, hi, welcome again. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm the Program Director for Professional Development and Events here at NACME, the National Action Council for Minorities in Engineering. And I'd like to welcome you all to part of our series of Pathway to the C-Suite, part of the summer. So this is our spring session. We are very fortunate to have some of our proud board members and sponsors from Ford Motor Company. So I have two great presenters here. We're excited to present to you all to get you prepared for your internships this summer. More information towards the end of the program, but I'm going to turn it over right now to Sergio and Jessica to do their own introductions and to get it started. So welcome aboard again, and don't forget, we'll be having some polling at the end of the survey. Thank you, and Sergio, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate your introduction. And hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on which of the different zones that you're in the world. My name is Sergio, and I also have Jessica Ruiz. Before we start, I want to make sure that we talk about the housekeeping rules. So this meeting is going to be recorded, as you can tell, and it's going to be sent to all registered attendants, and also will be available on NACME TV on YouTube. For all of you who have a camera, please turn it on. I know that we are tired sometimes to be on camera, but hey, I haven't seen many people on the camera, so please do that. Make sure you have an appropriate background, and if you don't know how to do it, just click on the gallery view. On the camera icon, and for seeing everybody connected, you can click on the gallery view button, which is in the top right, to see everybody. So it's not just me talking, there's going to be more people over there. Right now, everybody should be muted, but during the section for Q&A, we're going to unmute people. At the same time, if you have a question, you can probably put it on the chat, and we will address those questions for that. Most important, many great ideas come from surveys. So I'm going to ask you to please complete the post-webinar survey that Kevin is going to send to you. So absolutely do that, and make sure that is completed before the end of the week. Okay, so I think I did all the list for that one. So let's start with our presentation. I'm going to introduce Jessica in a few minutes, but this is a workshop that we wanted to make sure is valuable for you, and that you just don't come over here and just hear people talking. We really wanted to take this from our experience and making sure that it's really relevant for you. This is part of our agenda. We're going to talk about the school and work differences. We're going to talk about managing expectations and conflicts, communications in the workplace, and then the opportunity for the Q&A. During this presentation, you're going to hear some examples or some stories that we have to change the names and the companies involved into this, because we wanted to protect the anonymity of the person and people involved. So we want to make sure that it's there. So without any further notice, I want to introduce Jessica, my partner in crime for this great workshop. So Jessica, welcome, and please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Sergio. Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Ruiz. I work at Ford Motor Company, as you guys know. I am Hispanic. I'm actually from Puerto Rico, originally, born and raised. And guess what? Since now we work from home, I am working from Puerto Rico right now. So to tell you a little bit about me, I started as a design engineer at Ford Motor Company, and then I rotated into multiple positions. And I am now a part of the supplier technical assistant team. And because I work with suppliers, I have had great opportunities to travel the world. It's something that is kind of exciting about my job. I kind of visit a lot of the manufacturing plants of our suppliers as part of my role. Currently, I am a launch manager, so I'm working on top secret new products for future years, a lot of electric vehicles coming soon. I'm also, to tell you a little bit more, I am also a big advocate of diversity and inclusion in our company. I work with the different organizations in our company. I am currently representing the Ford Hispanic Network, so I am a big member, an active member of the organization. So you are gonna notice that I have an accent, and it's because I'm Hispanic. I'm from Puerto Rico. So I want to thank you for having us here today. And I want to leave you with a little note that I always like to tell my students. And is that when you embrace your career with a lot of passion, humility, integrity, but you embrace who you really are, you can make a difference, not just in your own career, but in the lives of everybody else as we go through our life. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Sergio to introduce himself as well. Go ahead, Sergio.
Thank you, Jessica. My name is Sergio Patino. I was born and raised in Mexico. Never thought to come to the US until one day I had the opportunity, and I work as a bilingual teacher in Texas. So that's what I mentioned. I'm an adopted Texan, and I have been in Michigan since 2008 when I came to work for Ford, and I've been here since that time. I started in Ford as a Ford College graduate, and I have had multiple roles in the company, from cybersecurity, digital forensics. I also work at the plant and have done many programs and things within the IT. Right now, my current role just moved from a more technologically area to a little something different, which is in auditing. So I'm the supervisor for North America for IT auditors. And sometimes I have to be the one telling people that does not comply with certain things and bring a lot of great findings. And I've been enjoying the company for the past 12 years. I'm also being very active in the community. I have received some awards and been recognized by the company, as well as participating in some of the local chapter for Prospanica and all that part. Lifetime member for some organizations. And most important, I'm a dad, and I like to cook. So that's who I am a little bit over here. Okay, so as part of our agenda, we're gonna go through all these. And as I mentioned, we really wanted to make sure this is important for you and relevant. So we hope that this meet that criteria. So I'm gonna pass this to Jessica. So Jessica, let's go with the first topic.
Yeah, so the first topic we want to bring to you is what we're calling it school versus work differences. So as you know, when you're in school, we have all our answers are known, right? Our professors give us instructions and we know ABC, what we need to do. Everything has a finite answer, right? At work, it's a little bit different. At work, we have to find the answers. We have to do our own research, our own learning, our own growth. So it's not that black and white as we tend to know in school. So that's one of the main differences. Another difference is that we work toward a GPA when we're in school. That's our main motivation. It's kind of like, hey, we're gonna get good grades. We study hard, we get good grades, right? At work, the life is a little different, right? We work toward multiple motivational factors, such as money, prestige, promotion. So when you realize work is now, for the rest of our life for many years. So we have many end goals at work. That is not just one thing, right? So another thing that is different between school and work is that at school, in school, we are individually responsible, right? You are responsible for you, for your grades, for your homeworks. At work is a little bit different. At work, everything we do is is for the benefit of the organization, of the team that we are involved in. So we never work just for ourselves. All our efforts or our positive or negative results are always for the benefit, for affecting a group, affecting our organization. Another point that we wanted to share with you, that is something that is being brought up a lot in the last few years, and it's the fact that at school we still have the choice to spend time with the diversity of people that we choose, right? So you choose your friends and you're still surrounded by your family. So in school, you're still having limited diversity. There is a phrase that people say, for example, at work, for some people, it's the very first time they are exposed to diversity in their, let's say, in their regular day-to-day life. So they have, when you go into work, you're dealing with increased diversity. You have multiple generations, you have multiple ethnicity backgrounds, and people with different gender preferences. So at work, we're really, really exposed to multiple genders and multiple diversity, let's put it that way. And that alone, by the way, that topic of diversity comes with a lot more things behind it, right? It is not just, we have to learn to deal with people that are different than us. We have to learn to embrace our own, ethnicity and uniqueness and our own diversity, along with everybody else that we have to work with, right? Another big difference between school and work that we really want you to think about, and is that at work, at school, you have an advisor that gives you guidance, that gives you, hey, step 1, step 2, this is what you need to do to get your degree, right? When you are at work, you have to define your own priorities. You get an assignment, but you're fully responsible to arrange and organize yourself and develop your career. You have to do your day-to-day work, but you also have to arrange how to develop your career over the years, because the career that you have is whatever intention you put behind it, right? So whatever thought, whatever next step, whatever passions you have is what it will be. So with that, I'm gonna jump into one of the examples. Sergio, if you wanna go to the next slide. So we're gonna be sharing some stories with you about characters like Sergio mentioned. So this is the story of Mary and Dale. Mary is a new college graduate who works for Dale. Dale gave Mary a research assignment to be completed in 2 weeks. He gave her websites for reference and contact names such that she could ask for help. Mary was unsure of the task, but she didn't say anything, right? And when the 2-week deadline arrived, she had not completed the task. And then at that point, she went and told Dale, hey, Dale, I didn't understand the task. But as a result, the project was delayed. It was not completed on time. And the team had to kind of scramble and reorganize priorities in order to get it done. Because at work, when there is a goal that we need to achieve, it is going to most likely impact somebody else, another organization, another group. So it is not really optional. When we get an assignment, it needs to be completed. And if you don't complete it, somebody else basically will have to pick up the slack of Mary, right? So it is very important. There is a lot of lessons learned behind the story, but it has a lot to do with, be mindful that, you have to complete your job, and don't be afraid of asking for help, because usually when we are new, we are uncomfortable. But, in an organization, in a company like ours, we help each other, and almost every organization, you're going to realize that everybody has a common goal, right? We all want to do good for our team, for each other. So don't be afraid of asking for help. So with that, I think we can jump to the next topic. Sergio?
Yeah, awesome. My apologies. I was given the secret of life, and probably you guys didn't hear it. What I was saying is, this topic is very passionate for me because I've seen it in first instance with many of the people that I mentor or I've been talking a couple of times from work or other organizations. And sometimes it's about the expectation they had when they are ready to graduate from college. And there is nothing wrong with that. I want to be clear about that, right? So what I wanted to mention over here is when we are in that stage, and also that happened to me, we are expecting to graduate from college. We can see that, boy, I'm gonna have a nice office. I'm gonna be a CFO, CIO. I'm gonna be the person who is the leader right away. I'm just gonna continue working, and I'm gonna have great salary. Is going to be very similar to school. The promotions will come after a year. Everything will be like on a straight line. And in few years, I'm done. I'm set, and I'm going to be the boss or the CFO or CIO or chief engineer, depending on where you are, right? The reality is that's really far from true. Why? Because the success that you're gonna have is not gonna be in a straight line. Actually, it's gonna be more like a jump, switching, failures, and that is what the reality is gonna teach you. That you can have those expectations, but sometimes you really need to be honest about the reality, and that reality comes with a lot of failure. But it's not mean like you're gonna fail. It's you're gonna fail, and you're gonna learn, and you're gonna continue working. Don't be afraid of working and understanding the company that you're working for. I mean, I put a picture over here with somebody with dirty hands. It's about, there is really nothing wrong to get in the floor sometimes, and at the very important part of the organization is you need to understand at work, at Ford, sometimes some people never been in a manufacturing plant, and sometimes they're like, oh really, we can go there. It's like, yeah, you should be in a manufacturing plant sometimes. If you are working in another type of companies, make sure that you understand the core of that, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty because you are working and understanding that. Also, you have to learn from those mistakes and understand there's going to be a frustration, because as I said, that path is not going to be in 1 year or 3 years. There is nothing granted. You have to work hard for that. Make sure that you have a mentor, and most important is gain expertise. Something that I've seen many times is many people who jumps into a leadership role, they never prepare for that, or they are not ready for that, and they're being put in those roles. And sometimes we can see the frustration because they didn't take the time for that. So if you're gonna start working in corporate America, I want you to really take this to say, I have expectations, but the reality is gonna be different. I need to understand that it's not a straight line. There's gonna be some jumps, some detours, and maybe I can get that at the end. The funny thing is, maybe once you are here, you will realize that what you were shooting for is probably part of the journey and not the end. So that's something important to take over here. Oops. The next one is also as part of the expectations. As I mentioned, part of the reality involves conflict, and there are always conflicts. I never seen a company where you don't have issues. So that's also important to know, from people from different backgrounds. And something that I've seen a couple of times is people who run away or in our conflicts, they don't like to face those issues and try to come with a solution. You might have seen this many times, and that's what I put over here in the sticker. Be the fixer. It's very easy to find problems and tell, yes, hey, this is what is wrong, but be the problem solver is going to separate you from the rest of the people. And that also is going to change your perspective. It's very easy to find a problem, but when you start looking at solutions, management is going to start noticing, and your attitude towards many things is going to start changing. And as Jessica mentioned, is ask for help when needed. It's very, very easy to feel like you are going to be proved and you want to prove yourself, but definitely it's important that you ask for help when there are things that you may not understand, or definitely there is something where you really need help with. So don't be afraid for ask. And the surprising thing is many people in the organization or organizations are willing to help. So don't feel like you are alone on this. The next slide, it's going to be to talk about more of the tools or some ideas that can help you to manage expectations and handle conflicts in the workplace. Some of these are really easy to understand and easy to take. Number one is to understand the root of the problem. In this case, it's also about miscommunication. That is the number one reasons of conflicts in the workplace. Sometimes we just try to have it our way, but we don't really listen and understand what the other person is saying. Also about our emotions. Sometimes it's good to have a break if you're having a heated conversation or you're not understanding and you're going over and over. Sometimes it's good just to walk away and come back and having those really intense discussions for later. Or if you know that at 3 o'clock you're already tired and you have a very important discussion, maybe you should have it earlier in the morning when you are fresh and you can see the difference into that. Something that we have seen is when you're in a group setting like this, sometimes there is not always an opportunity to talk with one-on-one, but schedule a conversation with that person where you can really talk and be open-minded and hear what that person has to say. And as I put over here is listen carefully. Sometimes we are listening to respond, and we are listening to say, oh, I'm going to catch that person. I have a perfect answer for that. But the reality is listen to really, really understand what that person is saying, not with the idea of respond, but more of what you are really want to understand. And my wife is probably thinking I should do this more often because I'm guilty of not following that. This is something that our previous CEO, Jim Hackett, brought to the company, is having empathy and understanding. We are all humans. We can get sick. We can get frustrated. So understand where the other person is coming from, and maybe you can change your perception. Something that it's tied to this is, okay, you understand, you have empathy. Now, what are you going to do? Have a plan to resolve the conflict. If you know that you can trigger some emotions, well, change meetings to understand that, right? Build on success and point out the positive. Absolutely, it's not going to change from one day to another, but you need to continue building. Something that I take very, very, very honest on this, and if you don't remember all of this, at least remember the last one, is choose your battles. You're not going to win on everything. You're not going to be right 100 times, but you need to pick what is important and understand about it. Don't fight and don't go on everything. Is choose wisely, because time and resources are really valuable, and not always you need to have a battle. Sometimes you need to negotiate and just move on. The next is a story that, as I said, we changed the names and the situation so people can, be protected for that. So Patricia is a summer intern who worked for John, and John gave Patricia detailed assignments and deadlines for the summer internship. This happens on almost every company that you go. You get a good assignment and you know what to do. Patricia was always busy and often unavailable to discuss the project or seek help. Sometimes when that happened is Patricia just didn't answer, just wasn't available ever. So Patricia spent a lot of her time in meetings outside of her role and social activity projects related to her internship assignments. In this example, I mean, it could be that she was just knowing other people, perhaps doing too much of the social activities and not really taking care of the assignments that she was responsible. When John met with Patricia to discuss her final internship evaluation, she was not happy with the results. So in these cases, she avoided the conflict of not really listening and trying to have that conversation. The other one was not doing the work because of doing other things that were not part of the priorities. And at the time of the conversation between John and Patricia, certainly that was already too late to solve some of the issues. So this is one of examples of if you have a conflict and you let it go, it can affect the outcome of maybe not invited to come back by next summer or something else, right? So just want to give you that as a good story. Okay, so let's go to the next topic. And in this case, Jessica, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Sergio. Those were great examples, and I really like those tools that you share with us. Choose your battles is something that I can even apply in my own life. So I'm going to talk to you guys about communication in the workplace. So we usually know the do's and don'ts. So I'm going to do it backward, the don'ts and do's. So this is based on some of our experiences, our collective experiences over the years. So we're going to share with you some insights. So the first one is, do not stay silent in meetings. We're trying to tell you, collaborate with your fresh ideas and ask questions. Just keep this in mind. You're coming fresh from college, full of creativity, innovation, ideas. Some of your coworkers do not have what you have. So you're hired to that company because you're an asset, because they want to hear from you. So I usually often say to the employees in my team that if you are not going to contribute in the meeting, do not be part of the meeting. I mean, if it's not related to what you do, please do not feel free to not go into those meetings where is not contributing to the work you do, and you don't have anything to contribute. Or you're not learning, because obviously there is a time when you're learning as well. But please do not stay silent, because we always want to hear from you. Another don't is to be mindful to not use text acronyms at work. We are in the generation that we text, that we are always electronic. But believe it or not, those little acronyms sometimes makes the communication way more difficult. And a message that you were trying to say really quick, it might create a miscommunication issue, and it might take you a lot longer. So try to use adequate English on all your communication at work. And that means, we have so many ways of communicating right now. We have chats and emails and different, meetings and Zoom and different ways of communicating. So be very mindful of that. Another don't is always communicate don't always communicate by email or text message. So this one has a lot to do with the generational difference. I would say that the most recent generations, from the millennial generation up till now, these generations tend to prefer to communicate by writing, right? Either a text message or an email. It's more impersonal, you go straight to the point. And sometimes, yes, that is the right way to do it. But what we're trying to tell you here is, when things get complicated, when things start getting to be messy, or there is a miscommunication, grab the phone and you will solve the problem in 30 seconds. Sometimes going back and forth in emails or back and forth in any type of chat or anything, it could create more problems, right? So keep an eye on that. And also remember that the audience that you're communicating, because depending on the generation that you are working with, some people will find that will have a hard time if you always communicate by text or by writing. Another example is that we are encouraging you to be mindful of how you use your company time. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm working from home, nobody's watching, who cares? But guess what? People are always watching, and the way you manage your own time at work, and I'm referring to the work hours that you're getting paid for. Be mindful to use them wisely. One, because it will make you a better professional, and two, because everybody's watching. You don't want to be getting hurt because of it. So our advice is to always complete your work on time, to use your time to either learn, grow, ask questions, and develop yourself, or to complete any assignment that you have in your hands. Another comment that we want to share with you is something that happens often in our offices, is that somebody has an urgent assignment, and then all of a sudden they come and ask for help Friday at 3 p.m. So what happens Friday at 3 p.m. after we have worked a long week, Monday to Fridays. Basically, not much gets accomplished Fridays at 3 p.m., right? So, especially if you're working on big companies that work with different time zones and different regions of the world, be always mindful of the work hours. Are you if you need something for tomorrow, asking at the end of the day or asking on Friday afternoon is usually not the best time. Another advice that we want to share is, right now, as you can see, we are creating this presentation for you guys. Nowadays, having lengthy presentation is not a practice that is almost, I'm not gonna say it's not acceptable, but it's not gonna convey any message that you want to convey if your slide has, a newspaper article on the screen. Just realize, like right now you can see that we have a few seconds. I have a few seconds to present this slide to you. So if I have a whole book in front of you, you're going to ignore me. You're not going to pay attention. So we tend to use, some images, some words, and I want to make sure that I have a message on each slide that you can take away, that my audience will take away. Be mindful if you're, depending on who's your audience as well, you can go really technical or you can be less technical, depending on who's your audience. And one other don't that we want to share with you is to don't use a free platform to conduct company business or send emails and messages. So with this, as you guys know, we're used to, as individuals, we're used to a lot of free platforms, WhatsApp and emails and so on and so forth. But when you are working in a company, in an organization, you can put any confidential intellectual property at risk if you use some of those services. Another thing is that although these services are free for us as individuals, for the most part, these services are not free for companies and organizations. So you don't want to get your company in trouble or your business in trouble either. So with that, I'm going to share an example.
Yep, sorry.
And I'm going to share an example with you about Luis and John. Okay, so here's the story. Luis is newly hired and works with John. So they are co-workers. John has been in the company for many years. So right here, you can see that there is an age difference right from the get-go, right? So both are working in a project to come with a better way to make refrigerator magnets. When John sent an email asking for a question on the next step of the project, Luis replied to that email 5 times. And it just created a lot of confusion. And then people kept asking more and more questions. So what does this tell us? One of the advice that the do's and don'ts, or the don'ts and do's, was, my rule of thumb, I'm going to share this little secret video. I send an email, but after I see some commotion in more than 2 emails, no more than 3, what does that tell us? It's time to schedule a meeting so that we can talk to each other instead of going back and forth. It sounds like, I realize that it's kind of tedious. Sometimes we don't want to do it, or we think we don't have the time. But at the end of the day, it will save you a lot more time. And another thing that I want to point out is that the reason Luis acted that way is because Luis is younger. So he's used to text and messaging. But John and the rest of the team has been working, they are an older generation. So Luis had to keep in mind that the audience that he was speaking to, and also, be mindful that, hey, if there are questions, let's not complicate things any further. It's time to grab the phone. Sometimes a phone call is enough. Sometimes we need a meeting when it's multiple people involved, okay? So with that, that was the example that I had on communication.
Sure. Thanks. And something that I would like to add into this example, Jessica, is the multi-generational environment that everybody's joining. In our environment, we have close to 6 generations at the workplace. So you can understand that some people probably still remember about the fax. Some people still do things in the very old way with email only, and others are starting to be more active with TikTok and other platforms that are fast and all that, right? So just be mindful, because not everybody is at the same level of computer literacy, and sometimes that brings a lot of frustrations. So that's why we did this example. So we're going to open the floor in a few seconds for some questions. I think there were 3 questions that were already sent to us. We're going to take those ones. Just give me a second. Let me pull that from there. And oops, let me just get those ones right here, and then we can start from that. Give me a second. I have those ones right here. Dun, 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 dun. Questions. Okay, so I'm going to read the question. I'm not too sure who sent that, but let's try to answer the best we can, Jessica. So number 1 is, how do you effectively present your findings during your internship? That's a really good question. So you want to take a, go ahead.
Yeah, so you can take some of the notes that I talk about effective presentations. Storytelling is a good way to convey a message so that people remember what you're saying, right? So it's used a lot if you turn on your TV, you realize that you see a lot of stories on TV, because people like to, that's a way to relate, right? So when you're when you're creating presentations, be concise, make sure you have a message on each slide. In our company, we have what we call bumper stickers at the bottom of each slide, because we have the whole presentation, and then in the bottom is, hey, we want you to remember that this is the important message of this slide, So that's one little trick that I can share with you. Be mindful to not overload with words. One effective message is to put an image related to the topic. Don't also overload it with images, which is the opposite mistake that people do as well. And make sure that you are, well prepared, confident of the information you're going to share. Don't put information that you don't really feel comfortable or you don't know about. And tell the story in sequential order in your presentation, where you're saying, hey, this was my project, this is what I work on, and these were the results, such that there is a story and a flow, and people are not overwhelmed with you going in circles and going here and there. The presentation always has to have a flow and an organization.
Right, thanks. And I will just add into that to be mindful of your audience and synthesize. Make sure that you put the important thing over there. So that's our best.
You want to know something, Sergio? I usually tell some of my guys, hey, we have to make our presentations dummy proof. So assume that people know what, an ABC XYZ, means, Try to put it in simple terms, put a picture to explain what's the issue, especially in our engineering world that we deal with a lot of technical problems all the time. We try to be, as descriptive as possible for a team of multiple functions. We have teams from manufacturing, teams from design. Right. So we like to use dummy proof.
Sure. So let's go to the next. There are two that we kind of answered that during the presentation, and one is about the communication with senior coworkers. So the only thing that I will say there is be mindful, and when in doubt, just go and follow the in-person communication. Normally after the second email back and forth, it's time to stop and call, or just call for a meeting since we have a pandemic. I think that will take that. Would you say that you ask a lot of questions when you were interning during your college years? Yes, and it's not just ask questions by asking questions. You need to ask the right questions. And how do you know that? By being observant, by getting to know the business. You really need to have that. If you are just there just because they have a nice chair or something, I mean, it's your time, right? They're going to pay you the same one. But at the end of the day, the more that you ask, the better ideas that you're going to have. And also for you, for your own development. Jessica, I don't know if you have anything for that.
Yeah, I wanna mention a couple of things. In the topic of talking to leaders are super busy, guys. They barely have, if you have an opportunity to talk to them, don't waste it, And another thing is when you have any kind of email communication between them, most of their emails will be one line, 1.5. So that tells you they want to go straight to the point and go dancing around it or writing 2 paragraphs, right? They're not going to read them because they don't have time. What was the topic, Sergio? Sorry, I lost it.
About the questions. Well, you were
about asking questions. Oh, come on, guys. That's the only way to learn. If we don't ask questions, no question is stupid. Don't be afraid. I've been working for a long time. And when I don't understand something, I'm like, okay, let me rephrase to see if I understand what you said. So you said this is this and that, and then sometimes I understand, sometimes I don't, and I even up to 3 times I have asked the same thing. But don't leave the meeting with a void or a gap, because it's your own understanding, your own career, your own growth. So be courageous to ask questions always.
Yeah. Okay. I think those are the only let's go to some of the questions from the audience. I think we can start doing that. If you have a question, we're gonna have to ask you your name and where are you calling from, and what's your question. So let's go ahead. I think Kevin mentioned that we're gonna have to allow people to unmute.
Yes, you're all set. Students, you can unmute yourselves when you ask a question and just mute yourselves when you're finished. Don't forget to introduce yourself, your name, your school, and your major, and your question.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Sure.
My name is Christian. I'm attend UC Davis, and I'm a chemical engineering major. And my question is, if you're in a position where you start to realize that what you're doing is not what you're motivated towards, but you see someone else doing something, how do you bring that conversation up of, oh, I think I would do better at my job if I'm doing what they're doing?
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure. I mean, I have ideas too, but go ahead.
Sure. I think the most important is to be honest with yourself, right? If you're in a position where you are working, you are effective, but if I'm reading on your question, is kind of, you see somebody else in another role and you're not sure if you can do that, or the question could be, I'm not too happy in my role, but I wish I could be doing other type of role, right? So the first thing that I will say is, do your job, keep doing your job, because you are going to be evaluated into that, and that's how you get paid, right? So not just because you don't like your job, you have to do not so great. So number one, keep doing the best you can. Number two is really be honest, because there are many things, right? Your mental health could be suffer. Number two, you will not enjoy and you're going to be miserable. So sometimes it's better to say, you know what, I really need to start taking a deep look on what I am doing. And let's not talk about if you enjoy it, right? Let's talk about if you are really being you, if you are really doing what you're supposed to be doing. And at the end of the day, if the answer is no, you really need to rethink if that brings you joy and happiness. And at the same time, if not, you know, life is short. And I think with the pandemic, that taught us a lot of really tough lessons. And paychecks, yes, they are great, but you know, there might be something that you need to really look and be honest and make a determination of that. Yes, talk with your supervisor or your boss, but don't just jump ship without really making a big assessment on that.
Christian, I have something
Thank you.
I have something else to add too. You know, earlier I mentioned that we own our own career, right? So when you start in an organization, it's good to find a mentor kind of outside of your job, because that mentor will be your cheerleader. You know, it will keep you going and it will give you some direction, somebody with more experience and contacts and network that can help you, right? But my advice is that the second you realize that this is not the job you want to do, remember, companies have multiple positions, so you can develop your own career plan. You can say, okay, usually we have to stay in the same job an average of 2-3 years at least. And then you can say, okay, after I finish this, I want to do this next. And putting your plan in front of leaders, and the second an opportunity comes, they know that they will immediately think of you. Usually we have to be a little patient on that aspect, because those things don't happen overnight. But trust me, it happened to me. I started talking to my leaders for it took me like 2 years bringing my plan in front of them. And they finally, when the opportunity arrived, boom, I was changed. But they will not think of you if you do not express what you want and where you want to go. You have to be very honest, very clear to your leaders about that. Sometimes, you know, we want the world to change, but we don't even know what we want. So if you do know what you want, be persistent about it. But like Sergio said, keep doing your job, because when you perform, you know, sometimes not every job we do will be glamorous, right? But when you perform, you will always be noticed, you know, so.
And I want to mention something, and let me clarify. I'm not advocating for everybody to just, you know, give up on the first try. What I'm saying is, after you have tried, give it a try. Don't expect every job to be perfect at the first day or a few months, right? Give it the time to say, okay, I have done the best. Definitely I can see whether I'm a good fit or not. So just want to make that clarification. Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank
Awesome.
you, Christian.
Thank you, Christian. Okay, we still have time for more questions. Come on.
Don't be
Okay.
Hello, I'm Danielle,
Hi, Danielle.
computer science major, Wayne State University. I wanted to know, how do you combat the nerves related to your performance? Like, I believe I'm capable of performing, but I know my solutions or completed assignments won't be on the same level as actual engineers. So how do I do I just talk to my mentor, or what should I actually do?
So can you, Danielle, can you explain the question a little bit more? So you're looking for how do you get more confident, or how do you grow in your job?
Kind of the grow in your job, but it's the fact, like, it's the disparity between what I know I'll be capable of doing with the basic knowledge I know and the proficiency I have currently that I think is good, but probably is not on, it's not even probably, definitely isn't on the same level as a computer science engineer who has been programming for 10 plus years.
Okay, I think that, so Jessica, you want, or I don't want to?
Okay, you can go ahead, it's okay.
I think that what I'm getting from you is, you know, sometimes we feel that we have an imposter syndrome. I don't know if you have heard about that, that we feel that we can do that, but then we feel that we may not be able to do it, right? That happens many times, and it's okay. Something that I will tell you is never underestimate your capability, because you will be surprised that many of the basic knowledge is probably what will take you to many things, right? Coding is solving problems, repeating the algorithm parts and all that, right? So nobody became an expert in one class. You need to have practice. And how do you get that practice? By doing some of the work. Now, when you go into an organization, they know that you are a student. They know that you have not delivered a system in a global scale. And guess what? They want people like you and everybody over here to learn through them. They want somebody who have the skills to grow with that, and somebody who is not afraid to make mistakes. So just want you to feel comfortable with that. And from that, it's just going to depend on you, right? The opportunities are there as far as you performing. It's going to depend on how many times you feel, right? I've seen people who, you know, they spend 30 years in one position. They're going to be experts. They know their craft left and right. And you know, one day probably you can be there, but remember, they started somewhere 30 years ago. So just to have that opportunity and practice, that's what is going to give you that confidence.
You know what else I like to add, Danielle, that, you know, when we start a job, we really don't know anything, you know, to be honest, because every job is custom to that organization, to that company, you know. And if you work for different, if you have had more than one job, you realize, you know, the way that McDonald's operates is not the way Burger King operates, just to give you a general example, right? So we don't know anything. So don't be afraid. Actually, use it as an opportunity, because like Sergio said, once you gain some experience, nobody will be like able to stand next to you, you know, and then the new person will be looking up to you. So my advice is seek out those people with experience, go and learn, go and, you know, one thing that I have done myself is like every time I start a new job and there is like a new software, instead of asking people to do it for me, and I spend time learning how to use the software. And then therefore you develop your own strength. Now people come to me asking me, hey, can you run this report for me? You know, so it takes time to learn things, but trust me, you will always be learning in your job. And don't be afraid, you know, just jump right in, or even seek for those projects. Sometimes I go in and do a special project that has nothing to do with what I know, but I do it to learn. I usually don't want to do the things that I already know, because what's the point, right? I am very thirsty of knowledge. I always want to learn. So I go and say, oh, I want to learn how to do this program, you know, and then I go and seek for experts that teach me. You know, your coworkers are your best teachers. And over the years, I can tell you that I've learned with so many amazing engineers. Some of them have already retired, but those people with experience are the best ones. So that's my advice.
Okay, good luck. Thanks, Daniel. Okay, let's go to another question. We still have a few chances for a few more.
Do we have to wait for those with raised hands to go first, or should we?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Cecilia Arellano. I am currently a second year at UC Davis, majoring in biological systems engineering, taking like the agricultural emphasis way. So my question is, sometimes when you're too deep into your this is what I'm feeling right now, too deep into my academics, and I feel like I'm just here solving this problem, this math problem, this physics problem over here. And I feel like I've lost my creative essence. And when I'm hired, and when I'm gonna be hired into a company per se, that's why they're hiring me. They're hiring a young person because you think of a young person as a creative person. But I feel like that creative spark within me has slowly died out because of all of this academia and all of this work that we have to do. So what would you recommend we should do to kind of ignite that creative spark again, or how should we light it up? That's it.
Well, I can tell you that that happened to me a couple of times in my previous assignments. Number one, creativity comes and goes. It's not going to be like a constant shock. You're going to go up and down depending on what you're doing, and so on. You're going to have a lot of creativity, then it's going to go to a valley and all that, right? Something that I will say is don't feel that that goes away. It's just probably right now is one of those valleys where you are learning other things, right? At my age, at 4, I mean, I created stuff that went internally. I came with videos. I came with things that, boy, I mean, we were just doing that, and suddenly we have a creativity sessions, and we created really good stuff that we were able to deliver. But all that is, what I took it from there is don't let other people to dictate what is creative and what isn't, right? So for me, I mean, I'm in my 40s and I was able to get really cool things that people very young enjoy, right? And other people told me, you shouldn't be doing that because you are too old for that. Like, well, there's no age for that, right? So don't let people tell you what is creative and not. And the other one is just give you the opportunity to experiment, make mistakes, and then over there, you will see what you can do and what you can't. And based on that, just enjoy that. Definitely, that's my only advice. Jessica, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, sure. So Cecilia, I feel you because sometimes I've been in school and work, and it's like an overload of information. I love to be creative too. But here's what I can tell you based on my own experience is that right now you're gaining tools at school, right? All these tools are going into your head and are going in there. Believe it or not, this is why we go to school for, right? When the right opportunity arrives, trust me, you're gonna know what to do, and the creativity is gonna come because you already have the tools. You study. It's just that right now, like in my case, I have worked in the quality department, right, where I'm solving problems from warranty. That means you buy a vehicle, you take it to the dealer, and we are covered under warranty. The next day, our engineers immediately receive the claim, and we start problem solving, right? So when you're put in that spot, trust me, you're gonna say, oh, I know how to do this calculation, this other thing. Why don't we start with this ABA analysis, this DOE, trust me, it's in there. It's gonna flow really smooth when you have the opportunity to demonstrate it, But right now, don't put too much pressure. Don't worry too much. It's just that you're gaining knowledge and tools. And then when you're going to work, you're just gonna gain experience. You solve this problem, then you solve another, and it's gonna keep flowing very natural to you. Sure. It's gonna happen.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, let's have the last question because it's almost that time. So last question of the night, or the evening, or the day. Nobody? Going once? Going twice?
Come on, there's gotta be one more person.
Hey, why don't we ask somebody? Okay, well.
Yeah.
Shara, I think, Shara Hawkins, I think you unmute yourself, or wasn't that? Okay.
I have a question to you guys. Remember that example that I shared of that guy that he sent 5 emails and people went crazy, sending more questions? You tell me, how would you have managed that situation? Instead of sending 5 emails in a row, what would you have done?
Maybe one big email with all your questions or all the information.
Or if not, if you have, like somebody said in the chat, ask for a call, ask to schedule a meeting so you can speak about these face-to-face or virtually.
Okay.
Very good answers.
Okay. Well, I think we are going to stop the questions over here. And on behalf of Ford Motor Company and Jessica, we really appreciate your time. And also we want to thank Kevin and also Oscar for their help to setting this up. Great opportunity. And most important, at the end of the day, you know, don't let anybody to define who you are. Keep doing the work. And thank you so much. Jessica, anything that you would like to say before?
Yeah, no, guys, thank you, Sergio. It's been my pleasure to be here with you guys. And Kevin, it's been an honor to work with you. Please count on us on any future events. I also want to tell the students, you know, every time I do one of these workshops, Sergio and I do workshops for SHIP, for different organizations. So you can find us on LinkedIn. I personally accept all of you. And that way you can stay in touch with, you know, internship opportunities and things like that with Ford Motor Company. My name is Jessica Ruiz. I often have a heart because there's so many Jessica Ruiz out there. So look for the icon of the heart, and please say hi every now and then, and let us know how your development is going.
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Sounds good. So thank you so much, Kevin, and you can do the closure now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sergio, Jessica. We really appreciate you. And thank you to the Ford Motor Company for your continued support. I also want to acknowledge one of my great colleagues from Ford, Liz Barrow. She's been responding to students very much in the chat, this room. So she's been kind of your partner in crime on that, answering some of the detailed questions to the students. If they didn't verbalize them, they put them in the chat. So Liz, thank you very much for that as well. Just some quick closing notes. As you recall, we will be providing you a post-webinar survey. So please, once you receive the survey later on this evening or tomorrow, complete it as soon as you can so we can have that feedback. Your feedback is very important to how we continue to develop the content and the webinars and improve upon them. So on that note, the next workshop that we have scheduled for the Ready section series is for our corporate scholars only. So you'll probably be receiving more information on that to the corporate scholars a little bit later on. Again, it will be next week, and we'll have our presenters from part of our NACME team here in Alexandria and beyond. But beyond that, the set portion of our summer series will begin June the 11th. That's on Friday. We'll be switching to convert to our Friday lunch and learns, and that will begin June 11th. We'll be offering them twice a day. So more details on that. I hope that you all have an opportunity to join us. And again, any last minute questions or comments, you can feel free to email us at events@nacme.org. Again, my name is Kevin Smith. Thank you so much for participating. Round of applause to all my wonderful colleagues for participating with us. And we will see you all next week. If not, we'll see you in June. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Get it up there. Get it up there.